Hello folks and welcome to shelf 46. We're almost there. But hopefully you'll still keep watching the channel after these videos are done. Hopefully this wasn't the only thing that you timed in for. But, you know, content will still be coming out over the lockdown period, just maybe not quite daily. You know, everybody needs a rest. And let's just say my normal job, my accountancy job, is working me to the bone at the moment in terms of trying to get work done because of the remote working thing. So, work-life balance is always a thing. A pipe dream I would ever be able to do this as a full-time thing, but yeah, that ain't gonna happen. But anyway, on to the shelf. So this is all Z-Man games, and we'll start with the tiny, light, No Thanks. Rubber banded just for easy storage. But No Thanks is one of the simplest little card games around. It is pretty much guaranteed to work out as any filler game, playable in 5 to 20 minutes, depending on how many rounds you do. What do I need to say about this one, really? I mean, it's a very straightforward game. Just don't have the most points, which is, I must admit, counterintuitive to many. But you essentially just draw a card from a deck after taking some of them out. They're numbered from, I believe, like 3 to 36. And you just decide whether you want to take the card or not. Okay, well, why would I take a card? Because you have a display of red chips. And those red chips, you put a chip down on the card to say you don't want it. And then the next player decides whether they want to or not. The problem is, a high point card might come out and then everybody starts putting chips on it. The chips are worth a negative point though, so it's good to have them. Not to mention they give you a lifeline to not take certain cards. But how long do you leave it going round? Because a 30 might come out and it's like, don't want it, don't want it, don't want it, don't want it. Okay? Don't want it, don't want it, don't want it, don't want it. You know, and it goes round maybe 3 or 4 times and it's like, sooner or later someone's got to take this card. There's a lot of chips there, but it's a 30-point card. Do I want it? I don't know. I think I'll get it if it comes back round to me. Oh, I was going to take that. And that inevitably happens all the time. I feel like I want to take the card and then some Burke takes it before I get a chance. It's such a good tense timing game. And that's just with one card. I mean, sometimes you get it's a lucky game at the end of the day. You might draw cards that are exactly what you need. Because with this, if you get cards in a row sequentially, then you only score the bottom card. So it's good to have, like, say, 12, 13, and 14 because you'll only score the 12. So you sometimes draw a card and it's perfectly what you need. Yes, there's some luck involved, but it is a 5 to 10 minute filler. What do you expect? It's a quick little game, but it's so simple. One of the quintessential gateway games you should have. I mean, I don't put it as top 10 essential games because I don't think it's essential you have it, but if we're doing a gateway games like must-have list, you need to have this in your collection. Right, I think most gamers will know that this is a particular darling amongst them. Targi, and this is, yeah, you might not even recognise the cover compared to the one that's out at the moment. I've had this for a while. Sadly, it doesn't hit the table very much though, because the dreaded number, the number 2, it's a 2-player only game, which hinders my ability to play it. But I love this game. This is a worker placement game for 2 players. Yeah, believe it or not. I'm trying to remember from this one because it has been so long since I played it, but you're essentially putting these like little meeples round the outside, 2 of them in fact, and you're trying to line them up so that like you look along this grid to see which card you're going to trigger the effect of, but you're restricted as to where you can put your meeple based on what the opponent does, and it makes for a very tense affair, even though for only a 2-player worker placement. You're trying to get various resources and trade them in for cards to get points, so it's not the most thematic game in the world, but it looks decent on the table, and I've yet to consider whether I want to get the expansion for it. Has anybody tried the expansion to Targi yet and can tell me what it's like? Because for a game that's only 2-player, I don't know if I want to fork out the money for the expansion. You know, do I need it? Will I ever get to play it? It's not that expensive though, so maybe, I don't know, I'm in an R-ing, but I really do enjoy this game when I get it played. And to be fair, it is on Board Game Arena, so maybe I should revisit the rules to this and just play some games on Board Game Arena a bit. I mean, it certainly is a fun game. I would like to play it more often, so maybe that's something I should be really thinking about. But yeah, honestly, if you have not tried this game out, get in touch. Find a designer on Facebook. I mean, Andrea Stugger, he's on Facebook fairly often, like, you know, touting this game, so he's trying to give it the support. Very nice guy. By all means, give him a bell if you want to know more about Targi. Alrighty. Small islands might be replacing this game, but for now, it still has a place. Carcassonne. Do I really need to explain this one? As much as I don't have Carcassonne the city yet, which if I can find a non-scalpery price, I may end up with it, but Do I need to explain Carcassonne? Who doesn't know Carcassonne? The old game from the year 2000 that had you laying out tiles on a map to effectively put meeples on it, robbers, knights and monks and farmers, and score points based on the layout of the map, and it just looked pretty when it came out. It was so simple, works well for players. Even my parents like it as well. And I've got the first 2 expansions in here, Inns and Cathedrals and what are they called? Traders and Builders. As well as a weird sheep one or something, which I don't really play very often. I think I just got it because I had to review it. But, you know, it's in here. But to be honest, those first 2 expansions are really all you need. I think the Inns and Cathedrals are such an easy include. And the Traders and Builders is a very cool expansion for those more familiar with the game. The rest of them, whatever. Pick your poison. There's so many expansions, it's ridiculous. But I haven't played it in a while, and a lot of that, I think, is just because of wanting to play different new games, or the fact that I've got small islands. Small islands that I did on a previous video gives me this Carcassonne vibe, but I can't deny that this is still a really fun game to play every now and again. It's a good gateway game, and it proves that Cult of the Old is still a thing. You know, some of these old games are still really good. So, as I say, I got to decide whether it stays in the collection much longer or not, but I don't think Z-Man's released anything much lately, so it's not like it's in danger of being replaced anytime soon from a publisher point of view. Alrighty, now this one doesn't get a lot of love, this one. Most people have barely even heard of it, but it was kind of thought, oh, is this a Splendor killer? And it's like, oh god, another Splendor killer. I still prefer Splendor, but this came close. This came very close. Majesty for the Realm, done by the same designer as Splendor, so Mr. Mark Andre. And yes, okay, the title and the cover make you think, boring. It's like, come on, why do you need to care about this? I mean, it's nice, like, oh, blimey, I've got noisy kids out there, but it's nice from a colour standpoint, but would you ever look at a title called Majesty for the Realm and think this was anything but beige Euro territory? Well, this isn't that. I'm dreading to turn this over because I know that inside everything's going to go to pot. Is there a way I can... One problem with the storage in this game, it's kind of like everything goes all over the place. So maybe I can show you something else rather than the back of the box. Can I? Yeah. Can I show you the rule book just on this one occasion? The insert is not great, okay? I mean, the insert is basically this. And I've actually pimped it up a little bit with some villager coins in here that I had a spare set off, because as much as these chips are nice, there's clearly not enough denominations for 4 players. But this bit, the cards, it just slides out. As soon as you turn this upside down, you're in trouble. But this is Majesty for the Realm. It's this cool... I hope you can see this fine. But basically, you have a tableau of buildings in front of you, and they're all the same. You can vary it to your heart's content before the game, but everybody must have the same village. You then draft from a central tableau of cards, much like in Small World and Micropolis and a few of those other games, where it's cheaper at the first one, and then you have to pay knights, in this case, to go after the ones later. But as you take a card, it goes to its respective building and triggers a point scoring effect. And the more that you have in that particular colour, the more powerful it can be. But it gives you points at the end of the game for focusing on 1 or 2, but also for diversification. And there's pros and cons of doing it either way. Very simple though. You just keep carrying on until 12 turns have happened, I think. And that's mostly it. I mean, you can attack other people's characters and they kind of... It hits everybody kind of way, so it's not like being a take that maneuver. It's just you are aware of it. Knights can potentially kill off your guys. You need to know it's coming, but they can be healed back with a witch, that kind of thing. It's nice and easy. But it's just a very simple game, very colourful, really nice artwork, and I like it. I mean, I've not had anybody play it with me and say it was a bad game. They've all enjoyed it. But I just think that title and the fact that it came out kind of like just after Christmas in my area, people just haven't really heard of this game. But honestly, give it a look. It's a highly underrated title. Alrighty, now this one, I'm trying to remember a lot about this one because it's been a while since I played it. But a little bit of, Uwe Rosenberg inspired, not designed, inspired Lowlands. This very much feels like one of his games, but it's done by different designers. He just assisted with the development of it. But Lowlands has basically the similar feel of farming sheep. So you've got the fences, you can have a paddock, you can put sheep in. So you think, okay, well, that's typical Rosenberg territory. But you've got this little side thing of a dike. you're trying to push the water back or the storms. So as well as farming sheep, you've got this side mission of building the blocks of the dike so that the water doesn't overflow it. Because if it does, it has the potential to wipe out your sheep and various other bits. But everybody's doing it, so it's a group activity. Question is, how much are you going to contribute compared to other players? There's rewards for doing it more than other players, but then are you getting more rewards from doing the sheep aspect? Maybe you might be like, well, I'll put in an effort, but as long as it doesn't break, I don't mind if, Patrick wants to do a bit more, or maybe Sheila could do a bit more, I don't know, but we'll go with it, why not? And you've got some special buildings you can use. Unfortunately, you don't tend to use many in each game, but at least it adds to a bit of variety. And it's quite an interesting little title and doesn't take that long to play, about an hour and a half tops. It's one of the more lighter Euros in this category, but it's been a while since I've played it, so I'm going to have to refresh my memory of said rules. But I quite liked it when it came out. Could maybe use a bit of a component upgrade in some respects, but this was a very good thematic idea of having to push back the tide while farming for sheep. In fact, there's a heavy Euro coming up in the future which has a similar setting. But I really enjoyed this one. I just need to maybe get it to the table again and see how it fares after lockdown's over. Whoop, balance it on there. And finally, most people have got one of these in the collection. You gotta have one pandemic in the collection, don't you? And this is my pandemic. I've got the boards for the Pandemic Season 1 and 2 Legacy on the wall, actually, from when my group were doing it. They were good fun. I love the Legacy games, but they're done. I'm never going to play them again, so there's not really much point ranking them. They're just good games to play once. I've burnt out a bit on the original Pandemic. Pandemic the Cure was okay. Not played the Cthulhu one. I'd like to. Didn't like the Splotter one. Go figure. The Splotter half-designed one where you're fighting back dams. Didn't like that one at all. I didn't hate it, but I was just kind of meh. Not much. Wasn't a big fan of the Roman one either. I mean, the idea of calling it Pandemic just seemed weird. I mean, it's not dealing with a pandemic. It's just a Roman invasion. This is my Pandemic, though. Pandemic Iberia, the not-so-limited run, as you can see, because it's supposedly a limited collector's edition. Just go on the online store. You'll find a copy. Limited collector's edition, my butt. But this one is my Pandemic because I think it brings a good enough amount of variety with streamlined rules, but an interesting rule set compared to the other Pandemics. This is like my quintessential one-box Pandemic that I want. It's the same sort of deal. You're fighting back diseases, you're trading in the cards for the sets, you've got to get all 4 of them, although in this time period you're not actually curing them, you're just researching them. You can't even cure them in this day and age. But you've got an extra thing where you can sail around your island, because you're basically based in Spain, Iberia, obviously. And you can sail to different ports around the edge, which adds to maneuverability. But you can also build these railroad tracks around the place and use them as quick movement. But the time you're spending building them, you're not spending on sorting out the diseases. So there's a good push and pull there. And I know the irony that the train mechanic in a game is something I enjoy, but it's not quite the same thing. I don't need to buy shares in the respective company when I build them. But even then, it's also got a cool, got very interesting characters. Because I always thought the original Pandemic characters, they were useful, but there was some that you always went for and they just weren't as interesting. I think the characters in this are all pretty interesting. There's some good uses to come out of them. And if you want more variety, there's even 2 ways to make the game harder by giving the diseases special abilities, or by having this weird mechanic where you have patients running towards the hospitals when you build them, but if too many patients gather in one area, then it causes another epidemic, or pandemic, or whatever it is, outbreak. So it has enough variety for me to go, right, I just want to teach the base game, here you go. Oh, we've played Pandemic enough times and you want to make it harder? We'll jerry pick some of the stuff out of those 2 variants. But I think it looks good, very good artwork, very easy to read the board, even more so than the original Pandemic. And the railroad and sailing mechanic and that, I think just kind of worked for me. This is definitely, in my opinion, and I think Z Garcia's as well, if you're not including the legacy games, the best of the Pandemics to give a try. And it's perfectly suitable if you're new to Pandemic. Don't feel like you have to get the base set only in order to first play Pandemic. You could grab any of the standalone Pandemic sets and you should be fine, although maybe not the Splotter one. Cthulhu should be alright, but ideally, I reckon you should go for this one. Whew. Alrighty, 2 more shelves to go. 2 more. we're on to some very lightweight, well, we're on to solo games and heavy games on the next one for Z-Man, so I'll leave it to your imagination to tell me what they are, in case you haven't remembered from previous videos. And then the last one is a bit of a jack-of-all-trades shelf to finish off before we get on to everything that's on the top. And I'm going to have to work out how I'm going to do those. I think maybe, I suppose I'll have to do a long-range shot, or maybe I'll have to get out my gimbal with my phone and just hold it in my hand and kind of do like a handheld camera setup. I don't know. We shall see. I shall figure out a way. So until then, laters, and don't forget to subscribe, find me on Facebook and Twitter. Hope you've enjoyed, stay safe, support each other, take care.